Sometimes 3D prints suck. They can be rough with thick layer lines or need a repair from being broken. This can be just user error or just 3D printing things. Regardless, here is how I fix these mistakes, smooth the surface, and turn this broken M4 into a lifelike model. Here's what we're working with. The surface is pretty rough. There are some parts that are melted from failed prints that we tried to salvage, and just overall, the print's not the best. Plus, it doesn't help that I snapped the barrel off shooting this video. So let's start by fixing that. I use a product by JB Weld called Super Weld. This is UV activated, so you can put the glue down, smooth it out a little bit, and when you're ready, hit it with the UV light that's on the bottle, and it pretty much cures it instantly. I like to use this to reinforce some fragile spots as well. Once that is all fixed, it's time to start talking about our first method of smoothing the print. You probably guessed it, sanding. This is something that we need to do regardless. Sanding is super important for paint adhesion and just to smooth the surface. But the first product that we're going to use is Bondo, but more on that in a second. This suppressor is an absolute mess, so let's start by using a very low grit sandpaper and just try to knock down some of those bumps. Right here, I'm using an 80 grit paper. Once I've done a bit of sanding, it's time to bring in the big guns. And this is Bondo Spot Putty. It's super popular among 3D prints, but it's also used for cars. And it has a consistency of like clay mixed with toothpaste. You can thin it with acetone, but for this, I wanted to get a ton on the surface and make it super solid. So I'm using a spreader here to make a rough idea of the shape that we want to end up with. You want to have some extra material so that you can sand it down smooth to the shape that you want. Wait for this to dry, and then you guessed it, it's time for sanding. I use a medium grit here, around 200, but play around with what works for you. I felt pretty good about the shape here, and I don't need this to be absolutely perfect. As this model, I chose to add some battle scarring. You can repeat this process until you get it perfect if you choose. Next up is a quick and easy way to get rid of layer lines. It uses UV resin, and I like to just paint it on with a brush super thin and let it settle into those lines. If you are using UV resin, please use the proper safety wearables. A respirator and eye goggles are bare minimum, and something to cover your hands, please. This stuff can be super dangerous, so please just be safe. The resin I use is from Elgu, and it is water washable. I will leave some affiliate links in the description if you are interested in using any of these products. Once you've brushed it all over the surface, you need to cure it with a UV light. You can use a handheld one. If you have a curing station, you can use that. Or I was really impatient, so I just took it outside and let it bake under the sun for a couple of minutes, and that does a perfect job. And after letting it cure, I like to still wash it off in the sink with a little bit of soapy water just to get any excess resin that may have been left over. You can do some extra sanding here if you need to. However, I just do a light sand. Now we move on to the next step, and probably the most common way to smooth out prints, and that is filler primer. Specifically, I use this Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 filler and sandable primer. It's a great product and it works amazing. You just simply spray it on, wait for it to dry, and just sand away. Top it off with a base coat of black primer, and it's time to move on to the details. For this piece, I just wanted to do a simple and classic look of the M4, which is a black and tan color scheme. So I paint out all of the tan areas, then I dry brush on some metallic in the black areas, and I hit everything with a black wash. I lost the footage for the black wash, so we're gonna put in just some extra footage from our Peacekeeper video. Check that out if you haven't already. And then we're left with this. Not too bad for a failed print. I think it turned out pretty cool, and I absolutely hated this model. It was my worst enemy, but in the end, we managed to make it look all right. I hope this video helped you out in some way, and if it did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.